Welcome to Moonlight Recaps, where we specialize in sci-fi movie recaps, film recaps, and do an in-depth analysis to give you story explanations, movie explanations, and full movie retellings. Today's movie recap is Equilibrium. Let's dive in. The movie begins in the early 21st century, after a devastating Third World War, as the survivors have established Libria, a city ruled by the totalitarian Tetragrammaton Council. This government enforces daily injections of Prosium-2 on all citizens to suppress emotions and ensure obedience. Art, pets, and anything stimulating emotions are banned, and those who defy these laws are labeled sense offenders and face death, as emotions are blamed for causing past wars. To enforce these strict rules, the council employs clerics like John and Errol, highly trained warriors skilled in gun kata. Outside the city lies the lawless area called Nether, where illegal activities thrive, including rebellious groups like the Underground. During a raid on rebels barricaded in a building, John leads the charge with his team. He enters alone, calmly facing a barrage of enemy fire without getting hit. When the shooting ceases, John swiftly uses his guns to eliminate all rebels. Inside the building, they uncover a hidden treasure trove of illegal art, including the famous Mona Lisa. Despite its cultural significance, John orders the entire collection to be destroyed. During their ride back to headquarters, John notices Errol taking a book and asks him about it. Errol explains that he'll log it as evidence to avoid trouble with the records, as the team tends to leave things behind. Meanwhile, Father, the leader of the government, appears on screens everywhere in the city, urging people to take Prosium and praising the system for achieving peace. Despite his constant presence on screens, no one has seen Father in person for a long while. Upon arriving at headquarters, John heads straight to Vice Consul Dupont to deliver his report, earning high praise. Dupont wonders how John, a cleric, has become so skilled at detecting strong emotions in others. John attributes this to learning how to think like his enemies. Dupont then asks about John's family, and John coldly reveals that his wife was arrested and incinerated years ago for being a sense offender. Later, reviewing recordings, John notices Errol acting suspiciously in the car. Investigating further, he discovers that Errol hasn't logged any evidence for weeks, including the book from today. Concerned, John decides to return to the lawless Nether to search for Errol. He finds Errol reading the book inside an abandoned church. Errol laments that people in Libria have lost what makes them human due to the suppression of emotions. John argues that there is peace now, but Errol admits he would gladly sacrifice this peace to restore human emotions. When Errol makes a move for his gun, John reacts swiftly, killing him. Before leaving, John covers Errol's face with the book. Then, John meets Brant, who will now be his partner, and Brant expresses his ambition to become as skilled as John. Returning home, John's son Robbie informs him about seeing a crying boy earlier and asks if he should report it to the authorities. Despite being father and son, Robbie addresses John by his name instead of Dad. Later that evening, John dreams about the day his wife was arrested. He vividly recalls disarming two officers who entered their home, but he ceased fighting when they revealed his wife's status as a sense offender. On her way out, John's wife kisses him and asks him not to forget her while their two kids watch. The next morning, while getting ready, John accidentally drops his vial of Prosium on the floor, shattering it. Robbie notices and reminds his father to stop by the Equilibrium Center for a replacement. However, John discovers that the center is temporarily closed due to terrorist activity and redirects people to another sector for their supply. Brant arrives to pick him up for a mission, and John decides to go without disclosing his lack of Prosium for the day. They head to Mary's house and raid it. John pushes Mary against the mirror, momentarily frozen by memories of his wife. Regaining his composure, he assists Brant in destroying the mirror due to its artistic frame, revealing a hidden room filled with illegal objects. Mary is taken to headquarters for interrogation, where she questions John about his purpose in life. That night, John skips his Prosium injection and witnesses Errol's body being incinerated in a nightmare. In the morning, before entering headquarters, John deliberately drops multiple vials of Prosium, destroying them. Brant inquires about his changed behavior, but John dismisses it as optimization. Their next mission takes them to the Nether to apprehend sense offenders. During a fierce gunfight, a man attacks John, and Brant shoots him. When John inadvertently locks eyes with the dying man, he's deeply affected by seeing life leave the body. Exploring further, John discovers a hidden room containing illegal items, including a vinyl record of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and a snow globe. Upon playing the music, he's moved to tears, an emotion he hasn't felt in years. They burn down the room, and Brant notices John keeping a book, just like Errol. Suddenly, an officer announces the discovery of animals, which turn out to be puppies. Brant orders the dogs to be killed, and despite John's objection, he reluctantly agrees. As the officers shoot the puppies, one escapes and runs to John, who picks it up, surprised when it licks his face. An officer tries to take it back to finish the job, but John insists it be tested for diseases. Later, John meets with Dupont and argues against the extermination of rebels, advocating for their arrest and interrogation per the law. However, Dupont informs him of Father's mandate to exterminate all rebels on sight. After observing Mary for a while, John decides to ask for her box of personal things. Among them, he discovers a ribbon that catches his interest. After sniffing it, he secretly decides to keep it. That evening, he heads to a place called the Nether, unaware that Brant is trailing him. At the Nether, John tries to free the dog he likes, but the persistent pup won't stop following him, so he reluctantly returns it to the trunk. John even gives the dog his jacket and smiles at the playful creature. Suddenly, officers arrive and surround him, asking for an ID he left in his coat. They seize his car keys and prepare to open the trunk where the dog is hiding. An officer recognizes John, apologizing for the confusion, but the dog's whimpering gives away its hiding place. The officers open the trunk, spotting the puppy, and order John to kneel. Instead, John surprises them, using their own weapons to subdue them. More men arrive, and John swiftly disarms them using the same tactic, then escapes with the puppy. The next morning, John hides his vials of prosium behind the bathroom mirror before going to work. He plans to train with his sword, and Brant joins him, starting a friendly match. Their skills are evenly matched, and as they spar, Brant mentions the recent murders in the Nether, suggesting it will help quell the rebellion. The duel ends in a draw, and they leave to explore a new area in the Nether. During their mission, John encounters rebels and advises them to leave. Fearful of an ambush, the rebels follow him down a corridor to find cover. Soon, they face officers, but John fearlessly confronts them, allowing the rebels a chance to flee. After defeating the officers in a fierce battle, John searches for the rebels, only to discover them captured. It becomes clear Brant lured them into a trap. Brant demands John execute the rebels, even offering him his weapon. After a moment's hesitation, John returns the gun, opting to maintain his own principles. Brant orders the officers to execute the rebels, and John walks away. Later, John meets with Dupont and pledges to serve as Father's agent against the resistance. Dupont assigns him a mission to eliminate the underground. John then visits the morgue to apologize to Errol's body, reflecting on his doubts. Among Errol's belongings, John finds many photos, one marked with the word freedom, which catches his eye. In a rush to see Mary, John questions her about Errol. She denies knowing him, but John shows her the photo of them together. Mary still refuses to speak, so John takes responsibility for Errol's death. In response, Mary attacks him with a pen, but John stops her, moved by her resemblance to his late wife. Remembering the photo and the word freedom, John recalls Errol mentioning a place called the Freedom Reading Room, where he met someone named Jurgen. John tracks down this location to learn about Errol's meetings with Jurgen. After overcoming obstacles, John confronts Jurgen, who reveals rebel surveillance. Jurgen leads John to the underground, where rebels live secretly. John undergoes a polygraph test, which reveals strong emotions, especially for Mary, when Jurgen mentions her. Jurgen advises John that true satisfaction will only come if he embraces his feelings and tasks him with eliminating Father. Leaving the underground, John is captured by guards and brought before Dupont. Dupont questions him about rumors of a cleric abandoning prosium and asks about his recent activities. John claims he's been trying to contact rebels and promises to redouble his efforts. Back home, John hides another vial of prosium behind the mirror and watches his children sleep. Curiously, he He checks Robbie's syringe
John
box,
explains
he's checking if Robbie took his daily dose, and Robbie unexpectedly calls him Dad. The next day, John visits Mary, who notices he hasn't been taking his injections. Sensing his confusion, she reaches out to comfort him. Later, John meets with Jurgen and admits the difficulty of eliminating Father due to his elusive nature over the years. Jurgen reassures John, stating he's trained for this and promises rebel support if he captures Father. They plan to destroy all Prosium labs once people start feeling again. John agrees and heads out, but Jurgen warns him not to watch Mary's execution, as it will only make things harder. Back at the office, John sees preparations for Mary's execution on screens, prompting him to search for footage of his own wife's death. Overwhelmed with guilt, John rushes to save Mary, but arrives too late. He breaks down emotionally outside. Brandt arrests him, blaming John for Mary's death and the Nether officer's killings. However, John reminds DuPont of his mission to expose traitors among the clerics and accuses Brandt instead. DuPont examines the gun used in the officer's killings, discovering it belongs to Brandt, who had swapped it with John's. To cover up the switch, John claims Brandt took his firearm during the arrest. DuPont orders Brandt to judgment, but informs John they need to search his house. John feigns acceptance, but privately retrieves hidden vials, finding Robbie took them to protect himself and his sister since their mother's death. Later, John meets with rebels, plans to reveal the underground to the council, and is hailed as a hero. During the council meeting, Brandt unexpectedly reveals Father is DuPont, using recordings to impersonate the deceased leader. Furious, John draws hidden guns and eliminates the council. He confronts DuPont in a fierce battle, defeating Brandt and him despite their resistance. The movie ends with John destroying machines broadcasting Father's messages, prompting rebels to bomb Prosium factories and revolt against the system. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps.